The morning sun cast golden rays across the marble floors of the grand palace as 17-year-old Maya walked through the main entrance with her school bag slung over her shoulder. She had come to deliver some documents her mother had forgotten at home that morning. Her mother worked somewhere in the palace administration, though Maya never paid much attention to the exact details of her job. To Maya, the palace was just another government building where her mother spent her days shuffling papers and attending meetings. The palace corridors were busy with officials and staff members hurrying about their duties. Maya looked around, trying to remember which floor her mother's office was on. She pulled out her phone to call her mother when a sharp voice cut through the air like a whip. "You there. Girl, what do you think you're doing?" Maya turned to see a tall man in an ornate uniform striding toward her. His chest was covered with medals and badges that clinked with each step. His face was twisted in anger, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. This was Officer Vikram Seth, the chief palace officer, a man known throughout the building for his strict enforcement of rules and his particularly harsh treatment of anyone he deemed beneath his station. "I'm here to see my mother," Maya said calmly, holding up the folder of documents. She forgot these at home. Officer Seth stopped in front of her, looking her up and down with obvious disdain. He noticed her simple school uniform, her worn sneakers, and the small tear in her bag strap. His lip curled in disgust. "Your mother? And who might that be? Some cleaning lady? A kitchen worker?" His voice dripped with contempt. "This is a palace, not a marketplace where anyone can just walk in off the street." Maya felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment as other palace workers stopped to watch the scene. She kept her voice steady, refusing to let this man intimidate her. "My mother works in the administration department. I just need to give her these papers and leave." Officer Seth laughed, a cruel sound that echoed off the walls. "Administration? I know everyone of importance in this palace, and I certainly don't know you or your mother. You're probably lying to gain entry. For all I know, you could be a thief." "I'm not a thief," Maya protested, her voice rising slightly. "I'm a student. Look, here's my school ID." She reached for her bag. "Don't you dare reach into that bag," Officer Seth shouted, causing Maya to freeze. "Security! Get over here." Two security guards came running, looking confused. They knew Maya by sight as she had visited the palace several times before, but they remained silent in the presence of the intimidating Officer Seth. "This girl claims to have business here, but she looks like a street urchin to me," Officer Seth announced loudly, ensuring that the growing crowd of onlookers could hear every word. "She's probably here to steal or cause trouble. These young people today have no respect, no discipline." Maya felt tears of frustration building behind her eyes, but she refused to cry in front of this awful man. She had done nothing wrong, yet she was being treated like a criminal simply because of how she looked. "Sir, I really do work here," one of the security guards began hesitantly. "I've seen this young lady before." "Are you questioning my judgment?" Officer Seth whirled on the guard, his face turning red. "Are you suggesting that I don't know how to identify suspicious individuals? Perhaps you need a refresher course on security protocols. Perhaps you need a new job altogether." The guard immediately backed down, apologizing profusely. Maya realized she would get no help from that quarter. Officer Seth turned back to her with a triumphant smirk. "Now then, you have two choices. You can leave immediately and count yourself lucky that I don't have you arrested, or you can continue this charade and face the consequences. What will it be?" "I'm not leaving until I see my mother," Maya said quietly but firmly. "I haven't done anything wrong." Officer Seth's face darkened. "You dare to defy me? I am the chief palace officer. I have authority over every person who enters these walls. Your arrogance is astounding. Who do you think you are?" "I'm someone who has every right to be here," Maya replied, her own anger beginning to surface despite her attempts to remain calm. "And you have no right to treat me this way just because you think I'm not important enough." The crowd had grown larger now, with dozens of palace workers watching the confrontation. Some looked sympathetic toward Maya, while others seemed to enjoy the drama. Officer Seth was clearly relishing his position of power, puffing up his chest and speaking even louder to ensure maximum humiliation for the young girl. "Not important enough?" "That's exactly right. You're nobody. A child who probably comes from some rundown neighborhood, whose mother probably lied about her credentials to get a menial job here. I've seen hundreds like you, thinking you can walk into places like this and demand respect you haven't earned." Maya's hands trembled as she clutched the folder of documents. She thought about her mother, who left early every morning and returned home late every evening, always tired but never complaining. Her mother, who worked hard to provide for their family, who had raised Maya alone after her father passed away, who had always taught her to be strong and dignified no matter what. "My mother is a good woman who works hard," Maya said, her voice cracking slightly. "She deserves respect, and so do I. You don't even know us, yet you've decided we're worthless based on nothing but your own prejudice." Officer Seth stepped closer, looming over her. "Prejudice? I'm simply observing facts. Look at you. Your clothes are cheap, your appearance is common, everything about you screams ordinary. This palace is for exceptional people, not for the likes of you and your mother." Just then, Maya's phone rang. She could see it was her mother calling, probably wondering why she hadn't arrived yet. Officer Seth snatched the phone from her hand before she could answer it. "Give that back," Maya exclaimed, reaching for her phone. "You'll get it back when I say so," Officer Seth said coldly, holding the phone above his head where she couldn't reach it. "First, you're going to tell me the truth about why you're really here. Then if I believe you, maybe I'll let you leave without pressing charges." Maya felt completely helpless. This man had all the power and he knew it. The crowd continued to watch in silence, no one willing to stand up to the feared Officer Seth. Maya wondered how someone so cruel and arrogant had risen to such a high position. She wondered how many other innocent people he had treated this way. People who had no way to defend themselves against his abuse of authority. What Maya didn't know was that her mother was not just another administrative worker. Her mother held a position that would shock everyone present, including Officer Seth himself. And at that very moment, her mother was on her way to the main entrance, having received a message about a disturbance involving a young girl who matched her daughter's description. Maya stood in the middle of the palace entrance hall, surrounded by curious onlookers, feeling smaller by the minute. Officer Seth still held her phone high above his head, a cruel smile playing on his lips as he watched her struggle to maintain her composure. The morning sunlight streaming through the tall windows seemed to mock her, highlighting the tears she was desperately trying to hold back. "Please, just let me call my mother," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. "She'll explain everything." "Oh, I'm sure she will," Officer Seth said with a sneer. "I'm sure she'll come running with some elaborate story about how important she is. That's what people like you do, isn't it? Make up stories, pretend to be something you're not." He pressed a button on Maya's phone, and it lit up with another incoming call from her mother. Officer Seth looked at the screen and laughed. "Mother," he read aloud mockingly. "How touching. Well, let's just let this call go unanswered. Let her worry a bit. Maybe it will teach both of you a lesson about respecting authority." Maya felt something inside her snap. "You're a bully," she said clearly, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You use your position to hurt people who can't fight back. That doesn't make you powerful. It makes you weak." The crowd gasped at her boldness. No one spoke to Officer Seth this way, especially not a teenage girl. His face turned bright red, and for a moment he seemed too angry to speak. "How dare you?" he finally managed to say, his voice low and dangerous. "You have just made the biggest mistake of your young life. I'm calling the police. You'll be arrested for trespassing, for insubordination, for defying a palace official." He pulled out his own phone and began dialing. But before he could complete the call, a commotion at the far end of the corridor caught everyone's attention. A group of royal guards in their distinctive uniforms was approaching rapidly, their boots echoing on the marble floor in perfect synchronization. These were not ordinary security personnel. These were the elite guards who protected the royal family itself. Officer Seth straightened his uniform, suddenly looking less confident. The royal guards rarely came to the main entrance. Their presence meant something important was happening. He slipped Maya's phone into his pocket, trying to act as though nothing unusual had been taking place. The guards parted, and through them walked a woman in an impeccable uniform. She was of average height but carried herself with such authority that everyone, including Officer Seth, instinctively stood straighter. Her face was calm, but her eyes swept the scene with the sharp assessment of someone trained to notice every detail. Maya's heart skipped a beat. It was her mother, but not as Maya usually saw her. At home, her mother wore simple clothes and moved with the tired grace of someone who worked long hours. This woman striding toward them was different, transformed by her uniform and the unmistakable aura of command that surrounded her. What is going on here? Maya's mother asked, her voice cutting through the murmurs of the crowd like a blade. Officer Seth stepped forward quickly, his entire demeanor changing. Commander Priya, I was just dealing with a security situation. This young girl here claimed to have business in the palace, but she had no proper authorization. I was about to have her removed when, Commander? Maya whispered, looking at her mother with wide eyes. Officer Seth continued talking, not having heard Maya's whispered word, not having made the connection. As you can see, I take palace security very seriously. We can't have just anyone walking in off the streets claiming to work here. This girl was quite rude when I questioned her, which only confirmed my suspicions that girl is my daughter, Commander Priya said quietly. The words fell into the space like stones into still water, creating ripples of shock that spread through the entire crowd. Officer Seth's mouth fell open. His face went from red to white in an instant. The folder of documents slipped from his fingers and scattered across the floor. Your daughter? He stammered. Yes, my daughter Maya, who I believe was bringing me some papers I left at home this morning. Commander Priya's eyes moved to Maya, softening for just a moment. Are you all right, Beta? Maya nodded, unable to speak. She was still processing what she had just learned. Her mother was not just an administrative worker. She was a commander of the Royal Guards. The Royal Guards. Commander Priya turned her attention back to Officer Seth, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Officer Seth, would you care to explain why my daughter is standing here looking upset? Why there is a crowd gathered and why you appear to have been in the middle of some kind of confrontation? Officer Seth's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. His hand unconsciously moved to his pocket where he had hidden Maya's phone. I didn't know. She didn't say. She shouldn't have needed to say anything. Commander Priya interrupted. Every person who enters this palace, regardless of their appearance or background, deserves to be treated with basic respect and dignity. That is the first rule of palace service. Or have you forgotten? No, Commander, I haven't forgotten, but you must understand she looked suspicious and I have a responsibility to… To what? To humiliate a 17-year-old girl in front of dozens of people? Commander Priya's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. Tell me, Officer Seth, what exactly made her look suspicious? Her school uniform, her age? Please enlighten me. The crowd was completely silent now. Everyone knew they were witnessing something significant. Officer Seth was one of the most feared officials in the palace, and here he was, being called to account by someone with even greater authority. I was simply following protocol. Officer Seth tried again weakly. Protocol requires you to verify identification and authorization, not to mock and belittle people based on your personal judgments about their appearance or social status. Commander Priya stepped closer to him. Give me her phone. Officer Seth's hand trembled as he pulled Maya's phone from his pocket and handed it to Commander Priya. She glanced at it, seeing the multiple missed calls from herself, before handing it to Maya. Thank you, Mama, Maya said softly, taking the phone. The word Mama caused another ripple through the crowd. It was surreal to see the powerful commander in this maternal role. Commander Priya looked at the scattered documents on the floor. Two guards immediately moved to collect them, handing them to her respectfully. She glanced through them briefly before tucking them under her arm. Officer Seth, consider yourself suspended pending a full investigation into this incident, she said. You will report to the Internal Affairs Office immediately. Suspended? But Commander, surely a simple misunderstanding doesn't warrant. This was not a simple misunderstanding. This was an abuse of power. How many others have you treated this way? How many people have suffered your contempt simply because they didn't meet your standards of importance? Commander Priya's eyes bored into him. The palace serves the people, all people, not just those you deem worthy of respect. If you cannot understand that basic principle, then you have no place here. Officer Seth looked around desperately, hoping someone would come to his defense, but every face was either neutral or openly satisfied to see him taken down. He had made too many enemies over the years with his cruel treatment of those he considered beneath him. Please, Commander, my career, my reputation. Should have thought of that before you decided to humiliate my daughter, or anyone else for that matter. Commander Priya gestured to one of the guards. Escort Officer Seth to Internal Affairs. As Officer Seth was led away, his metals clinking sadly with each step, The crowd began to disperse, whispering excitedly about what they had just witnessed. Commander Priya turned to Maya, and suddenly she was just a mother again, concern evident in her eyes. Commander Priya gently placed her hand on Maya's shoulder, guiding her away from the remaining onlookers toward a quieter corridor. Maya walked beside her mother in stunned silence, her mind racing with 1,000 questions. The royal guards followed at a respectful distance, their presence a constant reminder of the reality Maya was still struggling to process. They entered a spacious office that Maya had never seen before. The walls were lined with certificates, commendations, and photographs of her mother, with various dignitaries and members of the royal family. A large desk sat near the window, its surface neat and organized, with a small framed photo that Maya recognized immediately. It was a picture of Maya herself from her 10th birthday, grinning widely with frosting on her nose. "Sit, please," Commander Priya said gently, gesturing to a comfortable chair. She moved to a small cabinet and poured a glass of water for Maya, whose hands were still shaking slightly. Maya took the glass and drank, the cool water helping to steady her nerves. She looked up at her mother, really looked at her, seeing her in an entirely new light. The uniform, the bearing, the way other guards stood at attention when she passed, all of it. "You're the commander of the Royal Guard," Maya said, her voice filled with wonder and confusion. "All this time I thought you worked in administration." "You said you worked with papers and attended meetings." Commander Priya sat down across from her daughter, a sad smile crossing her face. "I do work with papers and attend meetings. That part was true. I just didn't tell you everything about my job." "But why?" Maya asked, feeling a mix of pride and hurt. "Why did you keep this from me?" "This is incredible, Mama. You're protecting the royal family. You're one of the most important people in the entire palace." "Why would you hide that?" Commander Priya sighed, removing her cap and setting it on the desk. Without it, she looked more like the mother Maya knew, tired lines visible around her eyes. "Because I wanted you to have a normal life, Beta. I wanted you to grow up without the burden of knowing what I do, without the expectations and pressures that come with it." "What do you mean?" "When people know you're the child of the commander of the Royal Guard, they treat you differently. Some become intimidated, others try to use you for connections. Friends might not be genuine. Teachers might give you special treatment or, conversely, be harder on you to prove they're not showing favoritism." Commander Priya leaned forward. "I've seen it happen to the children of other high-ranking officials. I wanted to protect you from all of that." Maya set down her glass, trying to absorb this information. "But I had a right to know. I'm 17, not a child anymore." "You're right," her mother admitted. "I should have told you sooner. I kept thinking I'd wait until you were older, more mature, better able to handle the information. But there was never a perfect time, and I suppose part of me wanted to hold on to the simplicity of being just your mother, not Commander Priya, not someone with power and responsibility. Just Mama." Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks. "You're always just my mama, this doesn't change that. But it would have helped to know today when that horrible man was treating me like I was garbage. I felt so helpless, so small." Commander Priya's expression hardened. "I'm sorry you had to experience that. Officer Seth's behavior was inexcusable, and he will face consequences. But Maya, I need you to understand something important. What happened today, what that man said and did, it had nothing to do with who I am or what position I hold." "What do you mean?" "He treated you badly because of his own prejudices, his own small-minded view of the world. He saw your simple clothes and your youth and decided you weren't worth respecting. But you shouldn't need a powerful mother to be treated with dignity. Every human being deserves that respect regardless of their connections or status." Commander Priya reached out and took Maya's hand. "If anything, this experience, as painful as it was, taught you something valuable about the world." Maya wiped her tears. "That some people are cruel and judgmental? Yes, but also that you have the strength to stand up to them. You didn't back down. You didn't let him break you. You spoke truth to power, even when you thought you had no power of your own. That took tremendous courage." "I was terrified," Maya admitted. "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting rightly despite the fear." Commander Priya smiled with obvious pride. "You handled yourself better than many trained soldiers would have in that situation." There was a knock at the door, and one of the royal guards entered, saluting crisply. "Commander, the palace administrator is here to see you. He says it's urgent." "Send him in." A portly man in formal attire entered, looking flustered. He bowed respectfully. "Commander Priya, I heard about the incident with Officer Seth. I came to apologize personally and to assure you that such behavior does not reflect the values of this palace." "Thank you, Administrator Verma. I trust the investigation will be thorough." "Absolutely. We're already reviewing complaints that have been filed against Officer Seth over the years. It appears this is not an isolated incident. Several staff members have come forward with similar stories of mistreatment." The administrator glanced at Maya. "I also wanted to apologize directly to your daughter, Miss Maya. On behalf of the entire palace administration, I am deeply sorry for what you experienced today." Maya nodded, not quite sure how to respond to such a formal apology. "Thank you, sir." After the administrator left, promising regular updates on the investigation, Commander Priya turned back to Maya. "There's something else you should know. My position. It's not just about power and authority. It comes with danger. Real danger. I protect the royal family, which means I'm a potential target for anyone who wishes them harm." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "Have you been in danger? Have people tried to hurt you?" "There have been situations, yes, threats, attempted breaches. It's part of the job." Commander Priya's voice was matter-of-fact, but Maya could see the concern in her eyes. "That's another reason I didn't tell you. I didn't want you to worry every time I left for work, wondering if I'd come home safely." "I would have worried," Maya admitted, "but I still deserve to know. I'm going to worry now anyway, now that I do know." "I understand. And you're right. From now on, no more secrets about my work. But Maya, I need you to promise me something." "What?" "Don't tell your friends or classmates about my position." "Not yet, let's take this slowly. Once word gets out, everything will change. Your social life, your school experience, everything. I want you to be ready for that change." Maya thought about her friends, her normal teenage life, the simple pleasures of being just another student. She realized her mother had given her a gift by keeping this secret, even if it hadn't felt that way at first. "Okay," she agreed. "I won't tell anyone yet. But Mama, can I ask you something?" "Anything. How did you become commander of the Royal Guard? That's such an important position. There must be a story there." Commander Priya's eyes grew distant, remembering. There is indeed a story. A long one. But the short version is that I started as a regular soldier, worked my way up through skill, dedication, and a bit of luck. After your father died, I threw myself into my work. It became not just a job, but a purpose. I wanted to protect others the way I couldn't protect him. Maya had been very young when her father passed away, too young to really remember him. She knew he had been in the military too, that he had died in the line of duty, but her mother rarely spoke about him in detail. Maya sat quietly, processing everything her mother had just told her. The office felt different now, more real. Every certificate on the wall represented years of hard work and sacrifice. Every photograph showed her mother standing with people of power and influence. Yet at home she had always been humble, never boasting or acting superior. "Did Papa know you would become this important?" Maya asked softly. Commander Priya's eyes grew misty. "Your father always believed I could achieve anything I set my mind to. He was my biggest supporter. When I was just a young officer, facing discrimination because I was a woman in a male-dominated field, he would remind me every day that I belonged there, that I was just as capable, just as strong, just as worthy as anyone else." "Tell me about him," Maya said, leaning forward. "You never really talk about him." "Because it hurts," her mother admitted. "Even after all these years, talking about him brings back the pain of losing him. But you're right. You deserve to know your father, even if only through stories." She stood and walked to a locked drawer in her desk, pulling out a small box. Inside were photographs, letters, and medals. Commander Priya spread them on the desk between them. "Your father was Captain Raj Kumar. He was brave, kind, and had the best sense of humor. He could make anyone laugh, even in the most serious situations. When he died saving his unit from an ambush, he was only 28 years old. You were just 3. Maya picked up a photograph of a young man in military uniform, his smile bright and confident. She could see traces of herself in his face, the same eyes, the same chin. "He looks happy." He was. Despite the dangers of his job, despite the long deployments and the difficult missions, he loved his life. He loved serving his country. He loved us. Commander Priya touched the photograph gently. "After he died, I was angry. Angry at the world, at fate, at everything. I had a young daughter to raise alone and a grief so heavy I didn't think I could carry it. What changed? You did. One morning you came into my room where I was lying in bed unable to face another day. You were holding a toy soldier and you said, "Mama, Papa is brave like this soldier." You're brave too. Your words, so simple and innocent, reminded me that I had to be strong. For you, for his memory. So I went back to work and I worked harder than ever before. Maya felt tears streaming down her face. I don't remember saying that. You were so young. But I remember. I'll always remember. Commander Priya wiped her own tears away. I rose through the ranks quickly after that. I was given challenging assignments and I succeeded at all of them. When the position of commander became available 5 years ago, the royal family personally requested me for the role. It was the proudest moment of my career, but also the scariest. Why scary? Because I knew it would mean even more time away from you. More danger. More secrets. I almost turned it down. Commander Priya smiled sadly. But then I thought about what your father would say. He would tell me to reach for the stars, to never limit myself out of fear, so I accepted. And I've been trying to balance being Commander Priya and being your mother ever since. A comfortable silence fell between them. Maya looked at the photographs again, particularly one of her parents on their wedding day, both in military dress uniforms, looking impossibly young and happy. I'm proud of you, Mama, Maya said finally. I wish you had told me sooner, but I understand why you didn't. And I'm proud that you're my mother, not because you're powerful or important, but because you're good. Because you care about doing the right thing. Commander Priya pulled Maya into a tight embrace. Thank you, Beta. That means more to me than you know. They were interrupted by another knock. This time it was a different guard looking more urgent. Commander, the king requests your presence immediately. Commander Priya straightened, her expression shifting from mother to military commander in an instant. Tell His Majesty I'll be there in 2 minutes. She turned to Maya. I have to go. Will you be all right? I'll be fine. Go do your job, Commander. Maya tried to smile bravely. Lieutenant Sharma will escort you home. Take the rest of the day off from school. We'll talk more tonight. Commander Priya put her cap back on, adjusted her uniform and headed for the door. At the threshold, she paused and looked back. Maya, what you did today standing up to Officer Seth, it showed me that you have your father's courage and integrity. Never lose that. After her mother left, Maya sat alone in the office for a few minutes trying to process the whirlwind of emotions coursing through her. Pride, confusion, sadness, love all mixed together. She looked again at the photograph of her young parents, so full of hope and dreams for their future together. A young female lieutenant appeared at the door. Miss Maya, I'm Lieutenant Sharma. I've been assigned to take you home. Maya gathered her things and followed the lieutenant through the palace corridors. Word had clearly spread about what had happened, and people kept stopping to look at her, whispering behind their hands. Some looked at her with new respect. Others seemed curious or even jealous. It was uncomfortable, and Maya began to understand what her mother had meant about everything changing once people knew. As they exited the palace and walked toward a waiting car, Maya noticed Officer Seth in the distance, being escorted by 2 guards toward the administrative building. He looked diminished somehow, his proud bearing gone, replaced by shame and defeat. For a moment, Maya almost felt sorry for him, but then she remembered his cruel words, his obvious enjoyment of humiliating her, and the sympathy faded. He got what he deserved, Lieutenant Sharma said quietly, having noticed Maya's gaze. Officer Seth has terrorized people in this palace for years. Many of us were afraid to report him because of his position and connections. What your mother did today, holding him accountable, it sent a message that no one is above consequences. Were you afraid of him too? Maya asked, terrified. He once reduced me to tears in front of my entire unit because my boots weren't polished to his satisfaction. But your mother, she stood up for me that day. She reminded Officer Seth that bullying was not leadership, that intimidation was not strength. He hated her for it, but he couldn't touch her because she outranked him and had the royal family's complete trust. They reached the car, and Lieutenant Sharma opened the door for Maya. Your mother is the best commander we've ever had. She's tough but fair. She demands excellence but never through cruelty. Every guard in this palace would follow her into any danger without hesitation, because we know she would do the same for us. You should be very proud of her. I am, Maya said, climbing into the car. During the drive home, Maya stared out the window at the familiar streets of her neighborhood. Everything looked the same, but she felt different. The world had shifted somehow. She thought about her mother's words about courage, about standing up for what was right even when afraid, about treating everyone with dignity, regardless of their position or appearance. When they arrived at her small apartment building, Lieutenant Sharma insisted on escorting her all the way to her door. Neighbors peered out of their windows, shocked to see a royal guard in full uniform in their modest building. Maya knew there would be questions later, rumors spreading through the building like wildfire. "Will you be all right alone until your mother returns?" Lieutenant Sharma asked with genuine concern. Maya assured Lieutenant Sharma she would be fine, and the guard left with a final salute that made Maya feel strangely important and uncomfortable at the same time. Once inside the apartment, Maya dropped her school bag and collapsed onto the old sofa. The familiar surroundings, so different from the Grand Palace, felt comforting. The worn furniture, the small kitchen, the family photos on the walls, all reminded her that despite everything she had learned today, home was still home. She picked up her phone and saw dozens of missed messages from her best friend, Zara. They had planned to study together after school, and Zara was clearly worried about why Maya hadn't shown up and wasn't answering. Maya stared at the messages, her finger hovering over the keyboard. How could she explain what had happened without revealing her mother's position? She had promised to keep it secret, at least for now. "Hey, sorry I went radio silent. Had a family thing come up. All okay now. Talk tomorrow?" Maya typed, feeling guilty about the vague response but not knowing what else to say. Zara replied immediately. "You scared me. Thought you got kidnapped or something. Glad you're okay. See you tomorrow. Love you." Maya smiled at her friend's dramatic concern. She loved Zora for her loyalty and her big heart. They had been best friends since elementary school, sharing everything from silly secrets to serious dreams. Keeping something this huge from her felt wrong, but Maya knew it was necessary, at least for a little while. The afternoon dragged on slowly. Maya tried to do homework, but her mind kept wandering back to the morning's events. She kept seeing Officer Seth's face as he realized who she was, the shock and fear that had replaced his earlier contempt. She kept hearing her mother's voice, calm and authoritative, defending her. And she kept thinking about the photographs in that box. Her father's young face frozen in time, never aging, never knowing what his daughter would become. Around 5 o'clock, the apartment door opened, and Commander Priya walked in looking exhausted. She had changed out of her uniform and back into the simple civilian clothes Maya was used to seeing her wear. For a moment it felt like any other evening, her mother coming home tired from work. "How was your meeting with the king?" Maya asked. Her mother kicked off her shoes and sank into the armchair. "Complicated. The king wanted to personally apologize for what happened to you. He was genuinely upset that someone under his roof had treated you so poorly. He's ordered a complete review of palace security protocols and staff conduct policies." Maya's eyes widened. "The king knows about me?" "About what happened?" "Of course. Nothing that significant happens in the palace without His Majesty being informed, especially when it involves his commander of the royal guard." Her mother smiled tiredly. "He also expressed interest in meeting you properly sometime, when the circumstances are less dramatic." "Meeting the king? Mama, I don't know if I'm ready for that." "You have time. There's no rush." Commander Priya leaned her head back and closed her eyes. "The investigation into Officer Seth has already uncovered multiple incidents of abuse and misconduct. He's been treating palace staff, visitors, and even some lower-ranking officials terribly for years. People were afraid to speak up because of his connections and his vindictive nature. Your situation finally gave others the courage to come forward." Maya felt a strange mix of emotions. She hadn't intended to become some kind of catalyst for change. She had just wanted to deliver some papers to her mother. "What will happen to him?" "He'll be dismissed from service. No pension, no benefits. His behavior violated every code of conduct we have. Beyond that, several people are considering legal action against him for harassment and emotional distress." Her mother opened her eyes and looked at Maya seriously. "How are you feeling about everything?" "Today was overwhelming, I know." "I'm still processing it all," Maya admitted. "Finding out about your real job, seeing you in that role, learning about Papa, it's a lot." "I know. And I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I had imagined telling you myself, maybe on your 18th birthday, in a calm setting where we could talk everything through properly." Commander Priya sighed. But life rarely goes according to plan. Maya moved to sit on the floor beside her mother's chair, leaning against her legs like she had when she was a little girl. Tell me more about your work. What does a commander of the Royal Guard actually do? Over the next hour, Commander Priya explained her responsibilities. She oversaw all security for the royal family, coordinated with intelligence agencies about potential threats, managed a team of over 200 elite guards, and advised the king on security matters. She attended state functions, traveled with the royal family on official visits, and spent countless hours reviewing security protocols and training exercises. It sounds exhausting, Maya said. It is, but it's also rewarding. I protect people who dedicate their lives to serving this nation. The royal family, despite what some might think, works incredibly hard. They attend hundreds of events each year, support countless charities, represent our country abroad. They sacrifice their privacy and much of their freedom for duty. Helping to keep them safe is an honor. Do you ever get scared? Like really scared that something might happen? Every single day, her mother admitted. Fear is part of the job, but I can't let it paralyze me. I have to trust in my training, my team, and my preparation. We run drills constantly, update our procedures, stay vigilant. That's all we can do. Maya thought about this, about her mother carrying this burden every day while still coming home and being just mama. Cooking dinner, helping with homework, watching their favorite shows together. The strength that required was staggering. I have an idea, Commander Priya said suddenly. Tomorrow is Saturday. What if I take you to the palace training facility? You can see where I work, meet some of the guards, understand what we do. It might help make all of this feel more real and less mysterious. Really? You'd let me see that? Why not? You're going to be part of this world now, whether we planned it that way or not. Better you understand it properly than imagine it based on incomplete information. Her mother smiled. Besides, the team has been asking about you for years. They've seen your picture on my desk and heard me talk about you. They'd love to meet the famous Maya. Famous? Maya laughed. I'm not famous. You are in the palace now. By tomorrow morning, everyone will know about the commander's daughter who stood up to Officer Seth. You're going to be a bit of a legend. Her mother's expression turned more serious. Which brings me to something important we need to discuss. Maya sat up straighter, sensing the shift in tone. Starting Monday, you're going to notice changes at school. Word will get out about who I am, and that means people will know who you are. Some of your classmates might treat you differently. Teachers might act strange. People you barely know might suddenly want to be your best friend. Commander Priya reached down and took Maya's hand. It's going to be difficult to navigate. Some friendships might change or even end. Others will prove themselves true. Zara will stay my friend, Maya said with certainty. Probably, yes. True friends don't change based on your circumstances, but you'll be surprised by who disappoints you and who surprises you in a good way. Her mother squeezed her hand. I want you to promise me something. Don't let this change who you are. Don't let power, even second-hand power through me, go to your head. Stay humble, stay kind. Remember how Officer Seth made you feel today? And never make anyone else feel that way. I promise, Maya said solemnly. They ordered dinner from their favorite local restaurant, and as they ate, the conversation drifted to lighter topics. Her mother asked about school, about Maya's upcoming exams, about the book Maya was reading. For a little while, things felt normal again, just the two of them in their small apartment sharing a meal and each other's company. Later that night, as Maya lay in bed, she couldn't sleep. Her mind kept replaying the day's events. She thought about Officer Seth's cruelty, her mother's strength, the revelation about her father's death and her mother's rise through the ranks. She thought about the responsibility her mother carried every single day, the constant danger she faced, the sacrifices she had made. Maya picked up her phone and opened the photo gallery. There, among her selfies with friends and random screenshots, was the picture of her parents on their wedding day that she had asked to photograph while in her mother's office. She studied her father's face, trying to imagine what he might have been like, what advice he might give her now. Papa, she whispered to the photograph, I wish I had known you, but I'm glad I have Mama. She's amazing. I understand now why she works so hard, why she's always tired, why she carries herself with such strength. She's doing it for both of us, isn't she? For you and for me. The photograph, of course, gave no answer, but somehow Maya felt a sense of peace. She had spent years with an incomplete picture of her family, of her mother's life, of the sacrifices made for her. Now the picture was clearer, even if it was more complex and sometimes painful. She thought about tomorrow's visit to the training facility, about meeting the royal guards who served under her mother's command. She was nervous but also excited. A whole new world was opening up before her, full of possibilities and challenges she had never imagined. Saturday morning arrived with bright sunshine streaming through Maya's bedroom window. She woke up early, unusual for a weekend, but her excitement and nervousness about visiting the training facility made sleep impossible. She could hear her mother already moving around in the kitchen, the familiar sounds of breakfast being prepared. Maya got dressed carefully, choosing simple but neat clothes. She wasn't sure what to wear to a Royal Guard training facility, so she settled on jeans and a comfortable shirt. When she emerged from her room, she found her mother at the stove making eggs and toast. "Good morning, Beta. You're up early," Commander Priya said with a smile. She was wearing casual clothes too, though Maya noticed they were slightly more formal than her usual weekend attire. "Couldn't sleep," Maya admitted, sitting at their small dining table. "I kept thinking about today. Nervous?" "A little. What if they don't like me? What if I say something stupid?" Her mother brought over 2 plates and sat down across from Maya. "They'll love you. And even if you do say something awkward, which we all do sometimes, they're not going to judge you for it. These are good people, Maya. They risk their lives every day to protect others. They understand what truly matters in life. And it's not whether someone says the perfect thing in every conversation." They ate breakfast together, and Maya felt grateful for this quiet moment before the day's adventure began. Her mother told her a bit about some of the guards she would meet, their personalities and backgrounds, helping Maya feel more prepared. An hour later, they were in a car being driven by one of the royal guards toward a facility on the outskirts of the city. Maya watched the urban landscape gradually give way to more open spaces. Finally, they turned onto a long, gated road that led to a large, modern complex surrounded by high walls and security checkpoints. "This is where we train," Commander Priya explained as they passed through the gates after showing identification. "It's also where we plan operations, conduct briefings, and house some of our specialized equipment. The royal family has a secure bunker here as well in case of emergency." The facility was impressive. Maya saw training grounds with obstacle courses, shooting ranges, and martial arts areas. There were modern buildings that looked like they contained classrooms and offices. Everywhere she looked, guards in training uniforms were engaged in various exercises, their movements precise and disciplined. They parked near the main building and walked inside. Immediately, guards snapped to attention and saluted Commander Priya as she passed. Maya felt self-conscious walking beside her mother, aware of the curious glances directed her way. Commander Priya led her to a large training hall where about 30 guards were assembled. As they entered, everyone stopped what they were doing and stood at attention. "At ease," Commander Priya said, and the guards relaxed slightly. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet my daughter, Maya. Maya, this is Blue Squad, one of our elite protection teams." A tall woman with short hair and kind eyes stepped forward. "Miss Maya, I'm Captain Anjali Reddy. We've heard so much about you. It's wonderful to finally meet you." "Thank you," Maya said, trying not to sound as nervous as she felt. "It's nice to meet you too." One by one, guards came forward to introduce themselves. There was Lieutenant Prakash, who had a warm smile and told Maya he had a daughter her age. There was Sergeant Liu, who looked intimidating but spoke gently. There was young Officer Kaur, who couldn't have been much older than Maya herself, already serving in this elite unit. As Maya talked with them, her nervousness faded. These weren't cold, distant military figures. They were real people with families and hobbies and stories. They asked her about school, about her interests, and several shared funny stories about her mother during training exercises. "Your mother once made us run the obstacle course 20 times in full gear because we were getting sloppy," Captain Reddy said with a laugh. "We thought we might die. But you know what? We never got sloppy again. She pushes us hard because she knows our lives and the lives we protect depend on our excellence. She saved my life twice," Sergeant Liu added seriously. "Once during a security breach and once when I made a mistake that could have been fatal. She's the best commander I've ever served under. And I've served under many." Maya felt pride swelling in her chest as she listened to these capable, brave people speak about her mother with such respect and affection. This was a side of her mother's life she had never seen. never even imagined. Commander Priya then took Maya on a tour of the facility. They visited the shooting range where Maya was allowed to try on protective gear and watch a training exercise. They saw the Tactical Operations Center, filled with screens and communication equipment where threats were monitored and responses coordinated. They visited the medical facility, equipped to handle everything from minor injuries to major trauma. In the hand-to-hand combat training area, Maya watched in awe as guards practiced complex defensive and offensive techniques. The precision, the speed, the raw skill on display was mesmerizing. "Want to try something?" her mother asked with a mischievous smile. "Try what?" "Some basic self-defense. After yesterday's incident with Officer Seth, I think it might be good for you to know how to protect yourself, just in case you ever face a situation where you can't rely on anyone else." Captain Reddy overheard and grinned. "I'd be happy to give Miss Maya a quick lesson, Commander." Maya found herself on a training mat wearing protective padding, learning basic defensive stances and moves. Captain Reddy was a patient teacher, showing her how to break free from someone grabbing her arm, how to use an attacker's momentum against them, how to create distance and escape. "The goal isn't to win a fight," Captain Reddy explained. "The goal is to get away safely. You're not trying to be a hero. You're trying to survive and find help." After an hour of training, Maya was sweating and tired but exhilarated. She had never done anything like this before. And while she knew one session didn't make her an expert, she felt more confident, more capable. As they took a break, sitting on a bench and drinking water, Lieutenant Sharma approached. Maya recognized her from the previous day when she had driven Maya home. "Miss Maya, I wanted to tell you something," Lieutenant Sharma said, sitting beside them. "What you did yesterday, standing up to Officer Seth even though he was trying to intimidate you, it inspired a lot of us. We've all faced bullies in our lives, people who tried to make us feel small. Seeing someone as young as you refuse to be diminished, it reminded us why we do this work. We protect people, yes, but we also stand for the principle that everyone deserves dignity and respect. I was just trying to deliver some papers to my mom," Maya said with a shy smile. "Maybe, but you showed courage when it mattered. That's what counts." Lieutenant Sharma stood and saluted, not Commander Priya this time, but Maya herself. "You're going to make a fine young woman, Miss Maya. Your parents would both be very proud." After Lieutenant Sharma left, Maya turned to her mother with tears in her eyes. "Did you tell them to say nice things to me?" "I didn't tell them anything," Commander Priya assured her. "They're speaking from the heart. You made an impression yesterday, Beta, not because of who I am, but because of who you are." They spent the rest of the afternoon at the facility. Maya ate lunch in the mess hall with the guards, listening to their stories and laughter. She watched training demonstrations and asked endless questions about procedures and protocols. She learned about the different types of threats the Royal Guard prepared for, from assassination attempts to natural disasters to cyber attacks. As the sun began to set and it was time to leave, Maya felt a strange reluctance. She had expected to feel out of place in this military environment, but instead she had felt welcomed and valued. These people, who dedicated their lives to protecting others, had treated her with kindness and respect. On the drive home, Maya stared out the window at the darkening sky, her mind full of the day's experiences. The facility, the guards, the training, everything had shown her a world she never knew existed, a world where her mother was not just Mama but a leader, a protector, a hero to many. "Thank you for today," Maya said softly, "for showing me your world." "Thank you for being open to seeing it," her mother replied. "I know this has all been overwhelming. Your life has changed dramatically in just 2 days." "It has," Maya agreed. "But maybe it needed to change. Maybe I needed to understand who you really are, what you've sacrificed for me, for our family, for your duty." They arrived home as the last light was fading from the sky. As they climbed the stairs to their apartment, Mrs. Kapoor from the neighboring unit poked her head out of her door. "Priya, I've been meaning to ask you," she said nosily. "Why was there a Royal Guard at our building yesterday?" "Is everything all right?" Commander Priya smiled politely. "Everything is fine, Mrs. Kapoor, just a work matter. Nothing to worry about. But a Royal Guard? Here? People are talking, you know, wondering what you really do at that palace." Mrs. Kapoor's eyes gleamed with curiosity. "I work in security, as I've always said. Now, if you'll excuse us, we've had a long day." Commander Priya gently but firmly ended the conversation and guided Maya into their apartment. Once inside, Maya giggled. She's going to drive herself crazy trying to figure it out. Let her wonder. Our neighbors don't need to know every detail of our lives. Her mother kicked off her shoes and stretched, although I suspect the secret won't last much longer. The palace investigation into Officer Seth is going to attract media attention. Once reporters start digging, they'll find out about you, about me, about everything. Maya hadn't considered that possibility. Will reporters come here? To our home? Possibly. The palace has excellent security and media relations staff who will try to protect our privacy. But there's only so much they can do. You need to be prepared for that possibility. Her mother's expression grew serious. And Maya, once the media gets involved, school is going to become very difficult. Are you sure you want to go back on Monday? We could arrange for home tutoring temporarily, give things time to calm down. Maya thought about it carefully. Part of her wanted to hide, to avoid the inevitable stares and questions and change dynamics with her classmates. But another part of her, the part that had stood up to Officer Seth, the part that had trained with the Royal Guards today, knew that hiding wasn't the answer. I want to go to school, she said firmly. I can't run away from this. Besides, if I don't go, it will just make things worse. People will make up stories about why I'm not there. You're very brave, her mother said with obvious pride. That evening, they made dinner together, falling into their familiar routine. As Maya chopped vegetables and her mother stirred sauce on the stove, they talked about normal things like upcoming tests and a movie they wanted to see. For these few hours, they were just themselves again. Not the commander and her daughter, just Mama and Maya. Later, as they sat on the sofa watching television, Maya's phone buzzed with a message from Zara. Hey, weird question, but did something happen at the palace yesterday? My cousin works there and said there was some huge drama with an officer getting fired. Maya stared at the message, her heart racing. It was starting already. She looked at her mother, who had noticed her reaction. It's Zara she's asking about yesterday. What do you want to tell her? Maya thought for a long moment before typing her response. Yeah, something did happen. Can we talk Monday at school? It's complicated and better to explain in person. Zara replied immediately. OMG, yes. You're killing me with suspense, but okay, Monday. You're okay though, right? I'm okay, promise. See you Monday. Maya set down her phone and leaned against her mother. It's really happening, isn't it? Everything's changing. Yes, but change isn't always bad, Beta. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it helps us grow into who we're meant to be. Her mother wrapped an arm around her. And no matter what changes, some things will always stay the same. I will always be your mother. I will always love you. I will always do everything in my power to protect you and give you a good life. I know, Maya whispered. I love you too, Mama. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the television without really seeing it, both lost in their own thoughts about the future. Finally, her mother spoke again. Maya, there's one more thing I need to tell you. The king has invited us to dinner next Friday evening. A private dinner, just the royal family, you and me. It's completely optional. You don't have to go if you don't want to. But I think it might be good for you to meet them, to see that they're real people, not just distant figures. Maya's stomach flipped with nervousness and excitement. Dinner with the king? What would I even say? What would I wear? Her mother laughed. You would be yourself, and you would wear something nice but comfortable. They don't expect you to be anyone other than who you are. In fact, I think they're looking forward to meeting someone who isn't intimidated by them or trying to impress them. The queen specifically asked if you like chocolate cake because she wanted to make sure dessert would be something you enjoy. The thought of the queen worrying about what dessert a teenage girl would like was so unexpectedly sweet that Maya felt tears prickling her eyes. Okay, she said. I'll go. It's terrifying, but I'll go. That's my brave girl. The weekend passed too quickly. Sunday was quiet, a day of rest and recovery. Maya did homework and tried not to think too much about Monday. Her mother worked from home, typing reports on her laptop and taking several encrypted phone calls that Maya tried not to eavesdrop on. That evening, as Maya prepared for bed, she stood in front of her mirror for a long time. She looked the same as she had a week ago, but everything felt different. She wasn't just Maya anymore, the regular student with a normal life. She was Maya, daughter of Commander Priya, daughter of the late Captain Raj Kumar, part of a legacy she was only beginning to understand. She thought about Officer Seth and how he had judged her based on her appearance, had decided she was nobody worth respecting. She thought about how wrong he had been, not because of who her mother was, but because every person had inherent worth and dignity. She had learned that lesson through pain and humiliation, but she had learned it well. Monday morning arrived with gray skies and the promise of rain. Maya dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that was nice but not showy. She wasn't trying to make a statement or prove anything. She was just trying to be herself in a situation that had become impossibly complicated. At breakfast, her mother looked at her with concern. "Are you ready for this?" "No," Maya admitted. "But I'm going anyway," her mother smiled. "That's the definition of courage. Doing what needs to be done even when you're afraid." They drove to school together, an unusual occurrence since Maya usually took the bus. As they pulled up to the school gates, Maya could see groups of students clustered together, talking animatedly. Several pointed at the car, recognizing it from news footage that had apparently aired over the weekend about Officer Seth's dismissal and the investigation into palace staff conduct. "You can still change your mind," her mother said gently. "We can turn around right now." Maya took a deep breath, grabbed her school bag, and opened the car door. "No, I need to do this." She walked through the school gates with her head held high, feeling dozens of eyes on her. The whispers started immediately. Like wind rushing through trees, she could hear fragments of conversations around her. "That's her, the commander's daughter. She got that officer fired. I heard the king personally apologize to her." Maya kept walking, heading toward her locker where she knew Zara would be waiting. As she rounded the corner, she saw her best friend, and the look of confusion and concern on Zara's face made Maya's heart ache. "Maya!" Zara rushed forward. "What is going on?" "Everyone is talking about you. Something about the palace and your mom being some kind of important military person. It doesn't make any sense." Maya opened her mouth to explain, but before she could speak, she was surrounded by other students, all asking questions at once, all wanting to be close to someone who had suddenly become interesting and important. "Is it true your mom commands the royal guard? Did you really meet the king? Can you get us into palace events? Why didn't you tell anyone your mom was so important?" Maya felt overwhelmed, trapped by the crowd pressing in on all sides. This was exactly what her mother had warned her about. These weren't friends interested in her well-being. These were people attracted to her newfound status, wanting to use her for their own purposes. "Back off," Zara's voice cut through the chaos. "Give her some space. She's not a circus attraction." The crowd reluctantly dispersed, though Maya could feel their eyes still on her. Zara took her arm and pulled her into an empty classroom, closing the door behind them. "Okay," Zara said, crossing her arms. "Start from the beginning. And don't leave anything out." So Maya told her everything. About going to the palace, about Officer Seth's cruelty, about discovering her mother's true position, about the training facility, and the upcoming dinner with the royal family. Zara listened to it all in stunned silence. When Maya finished, Zara sat down heavily in a desk chair. Wow. Your mom is the commander of the royal guard. That's like the most badass thing ever." "Are you mad I didn't tell you before?" Maya asked nervously. "Mad? Why would I be mad? You didn't know yourself until Friday." Zara stood and pulled Maya into a tight hug. "I'm not mad. I'm worried about you. This is going to change everything. People are going to treat you differently. They're going to want things from you." "I know," Maya said, hugging her friend back. "That's what Mama said too. But I want you to know something." Zara pulled back and looked Maya in the eyes. "I'm your friend because of who you are, not because of who your mom is. That hasn't changed. That will never change, okay?" Maya felt tears of relief and gratitude. "Okay, thank you, Zara. You don't know how much I needed to hear that." The school day was difficult, exactly as Maya had feared. Teachers treated her with a strange new deference. Students she had barely spoken to before suddenly wanted to sit with her at lunch. Others looked at her with resentment or jealousy. Through it all, Zara stayed by her side, a constant support and shield against the worst of the attention. By the end of the day, Maya was exhausted. As she walked out of the school building, she saw her mother's car waiting, and she had never been happier to see it. She climbed in and immediately slumped in her seat. "Rough day?" her mother asked sympathetically. "You could say that." As they drove home through the bustling city streets, Commander Priya reached over and squeezed Maya's hand. "I'm proud of you. I know today was hard. The coming weeks will be hard too. But you'll get through it. We'll get through it together. Maya squeezed back. Together, she agreed. Life would never be exactly as it was before. The secret was out, the world had changed, and Maya was navigating a strange new reality where she was both ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. But as she sat in the car with her mother, heading home to their small apartment, Maya realized something important. She was still herself, still the girl who loved books and hated math class, still the daughter who had grown up in this modest neighborhood with big dreams, still the friend who valued loyalty and kindness above all else. Her circumstances had changed, but her core, her values, her heart, those remained the same. And she had learned something valuable through this whole ordeal. She had learned that courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about being afraid but doing the right thing anyway. She had learned that respect and dignity were things every person deserved, regardless of their position or power. She had learned that true strength came not from intimidating others, but from lifting them up. As they pulled into their neighborhood, Maya looked at her mother, really looked at her, and saw both the commander who protected royalty and the mama who had protected her all these years. She saw a woman of incredible strength who had never let that strength make her cruel or cold. She saw the legacy of her father living on through her mother's dedication and service. "Mama," Maya said as they parked, "I want to learn more about what you do, not to follow in your footsteps necessarily, but to understand, to know the kind of person you've worked so hard to become." Commander Priya smiled, and in that smile, Maya saw love, pride, hope, and the promise of the future they would build together. "Then we'll make that happen. Whatever you want to learn, whatever path you choose to walk, I'll be right there beside you." They got out of the car and walked toward their building, side by side, mother and daughter, ready to face whatever came next. The story of how Maya's life changed in one dramatic weekend would be told and retold in the palace for years to come. But for Maya, the real story was simpler and more profound. It was the story of discovering who her mother truly was, and in that discovery, beginning to understand who she herself might become. It was a story not of palaces and power, but of courage, dignity, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and daughter navigating an extraordinary world together. And as they climbed the stairs to their humble apartment, leaving behind the whispers and the stares and the complications of their new reality, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in days. She felt at peace, because no matter what challenges tomorrow might bring, she knew one thing for certain. She was loved, she was strong, and she was exactly where she needed to be.